Well, good morning, Falcons. Casual Friday, exciting day at Valley with the Pep Rally out at the sports complex. Be nice to check that out if you haven't had an opportunity to see that yet. But it's also a very exciting day in politics as we start to prepare and situate for the Labor Day weekend. One of the top stories is the clerk in Kentucky, whose job it was is to issue marriage licenses, had been defiantly refusing to issue licenses to same-sex couples. Well, she was a federal judge held her in contempt of court, and she is now in jail. Think about how that what that means for our political system. You have a clerk whose job it is to issue marriage certificates and licenses. She doesn't personally get to decide whether she thinks this is a appropriate marriage or whether this is a good marriage. Her job is to issue those licenses. She doesn't get to decide. We have laws in this country, and her willful defiance of those laws has now landed her in jail. Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, addressed finally the issue of whether he would be seeking a presidential run. He didn't exactly directly answer whether he would or not, but he did say that he would jump in if he wasn't going through such a traumatic, emotional time right now with him and his family, who are still grieving the loss of their oldest son, who tragically died a few months ago. So he's processing that. We discussed yesterday the some of the barriers to Mr. Biden entering the race at this point in time. So we'll continue to follow that story. And as summer heat begins to cool down, even though it's still hot, the GOP nomination process is certainly going to be heating up. So make sure to follow developments in the presidential campaign. Today, the president is meeting along with the vice president and secretary of state, Kerry, with the king of Saudi Arabia. They'll be discussing the Iranian nuclear deal and regional issues of terrorism. Saudi Arabia borders Yemen. We haven't had a chance to talk about what's going on in Yemen. Maybe we'll have a chance to mention it briefly today in class, but think Al Qaeda. Think Al Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula. Maybe last year you remember the terrorist act that took place in Paris. That's where the terrorists were actually based out of. So important meeting for the president today. And do you think Saudi Arabia thinks the Iranian nuclear deal is a positive development for the Middle East, or do you think they're concerned about that? So lots to focus on. And one of my favorite days of the month is today. It's the first Friday of the month, which means that jobs report is being released. It hasn't come out at the time of this recording, and I will reference it in class today, but certainly tomorrow, Saturday, that'll be a major focus of our coffee chat. What is the jobs report? It's the official data about how many jobs were created in the country last month. And the more jobs that are created, the lower the unemployment rate. So it is all related to economic growth, development, standard of living, and it's complicated stuff, but we'll begin to piece that together and how it affects the gross domestic product, or as you may have heard the phrase, the GDP. Also, I can't resist. Moto X is releasing their new smartphone, I think today, and I have a short video clip that we may have time to get to. It's being heralded as the best smartphone ever. I don't know about that. Kind of partial to my iPhone, but who doesn't like innovation and new technology? Which also, I saw a story today that You're familiar with Uber, but now there are Uber buses. You can order an Uber bus for your very large group, and that just strikes me as kind of crazy. Who's sitting around in a group of 30 people and they haven't planned out their transportation? But I have a video clip on this, and it all affects the economy. So more jobs. Now they got Uber bus drivers. Uh, the economic experts are predicting that the jobs report will indicate that there was probably about 150 to 200,000 new jobs added in this country. And we'll talk about where the unemployment rate is. But I got to finish my breakfast, so I'm going to get out of here. I'll see all of you in the next couple hours throughout the day. But good morning, go Falcons.